So I wanted to do this quick lesson on creating a color story or color grid with new colors. So if you are new or you went to the art store and you bought, a couple of colors and you just want to see how they behave or how their relationship they have with one another, I always suggest just kind of playing around before you start working what's on your canvas or sketchbook or whatever, and just gonna play around with the colors. So here I am. I have titanium white, yellow ochre, cadmium red light, and ultramarine blue. And I'm going to show you how I kind of play around with it as I play around and see what type of skin tone colors this palette will give me. And so I apply the colors on my palette, and I just have a piece of mixed media paper that I use. I love using the Canson mixed media sketchbook for playing around with. And then I just keep a binder of all these kind of playful experimentations. So I like to see what this particular palette, I like to see what type of darks, lights, and midtones this particular palette will give me. So I just play around creating, mixing the colors together, and just to see, what kind of skin tone colors these colors can give me. So I'm looking for a dark. I mix the cadmium red light and the ultramarine blue together, and I got this beautiful, beautiful, deep, almost eggplant color. And it works really well. And if you want to, I would suggest kind of making note of how you got to that color as well, if you need that help. But it's really good to have this kind of guide book or guide page of your colors that you may use in your project that you're thinking about using. The next color I'll try to put together is a midtone. And so I'll start with my base of mixing the yellow ochre and the cadmium red light together to see what that gives me. And then I will lighten and darken and adjust that color by adding a little bit of blue, a little bit of white, until I get it to a color that works for me. And I will add that to my color grid and just kind of document that there. And another thing, this is also kind of like pre-mixing colors as well. So you can always go back. These colors are giving you information, and you have a guide to compare that color so that if you need to mix it again. I'll go in there and I'll mix that dark and that midtone together. I'll add that onto the grid, and I'll just kind of document what that gives me on there. So I have a guide here to help me when I'm ready to create on my canvas. And I'm loving, it's really amazing how a limited palette, how far you can go with very few colors. All you really need is a red, a blue, and a yellow. And that yellow can be yellow ochre, it can be cadmium red medium light, there are several yellows you can use, there are several reds you can use, and there are several blues. And I suggest playing around to find one that works for you. I'm going to go ahead and get my light now by mixing some of the red, some of the yellow, some white, maybe a little bit of blue to just kind of soften and knock down that saturation a bit. And then I will add that to my grid, and loving the color range that this just very small palette is giving me. And then I'll get that in between. I'll mix that midtone and the light together to get the in between color. And look at that. You've got a beautiful range of colors, some lights, some midtones, and some darks that will help you get to a beautiful portrait just by having 4 colors on your palette. You don't need to have 50, 20, you don't need to have a ton of colors on your palette to get a believable and realistic skin tone. And then I can continue to kind of play a little bit more by seeing the range, just by adding white and lightening that color and just creating some value scales with those particular colors. So here I am in the dark, adding a little bit of white and then just kind of documenting, just getting lighter and lighter. And look at the beautiful kind of grayish purple that's happening here. These are really good skin tone colors. And it's just, again, we're documenting color. We're getting a feel for the range that these colors can give me. And it's giving me information that will help me and help me build more confidence as I move on to my canvas or bigger project. I always say it's always good to get as much information as you can before you start your painting. And whether you want to pre-mix all of your colors, whether you just kind of want to mix on the go, there's no right or wrong way to go about that. And depending on my painting, I will approach it differently. I don't have a set, amount of rules, but I do like to get a lot of information. So this is another way, creating a color grid, getting to know the colors that are in your palette, getting an understanding of the range that they have, seeing the values that these colors can give you so that you see the darks and the lights and the midtones, and you're getting a good feeling before you start applying paint to that canvas. And then you have this guide, this roadmap that will help you along the way. Sometimes you forget how do I get that color? I got that color before, but now I completely forgot. Here's a great way to just kind of document that mixture, either write down how you got there or just compare the color. And you can keep these all in a binder or just keep them all in a sketchbook. And whenever you get a brand new color, I suggest doing that. If you're going to add a new color to your palette, practice playing with it on a separate piece of paper to see what it does, to see its relationship with other colors you like using, to see the range that it has, and does it fit in your own palette, and do you want to utilize it within your creative practice? And some people like using certain yellows or blues or reds or black or whatever, but they have their reasoning and they have worked that out with them. And this is how you build your palette. This is how you get a good understanding of what your palette can do for you in your particular practice. So here I am, I'm just going in, creating a value scale with all the colors, mixing them, getting lighter as we go along. This is a really helpful tool. Look at the beautiful range that these simple colors have. It's really amazing. These can give you a lighter skin tone. They can give you a darker skin tone. You can continue to play around. This is just a basic range that I'm playing with right now. I haven't even begun to mix greens and different types of tones and tints and shades of the range that these colors can give me. So this can take you as far as you want. You can play and stretch out the values. You can, mix more colors with this. This is just a really simplistic way of just kind of documenting and getting to know your colors. So I'm just going to continue to, add the values, the lighter values, just adding more white to those main mixtures so I can just kind of get a feeling for the dark, the mid-tone, and the light of each mixture. And I can get a good reading on how to proceed with the painting that I'm going to be working on. I can't repeat enough, getting as much information as you can about your painting, about your photo reference, about the, lights, darks, and midtones, the lights, everything that your photo is saying to you, and then getting a good understanding by playing with the colors that are in your palette. Here I am just kind of playing a little bit more. I ran out of space, but I just wanted you to see. Here I mixed some of the blue and the yellow ochre together. It gives me a beautiful grayish green. And then here I added just a little bit of red to that to see what happens. So again, there's an infinite amount of possibilities here with just using these 4 colors. And I can expand this color grid to a huge range of skin tone colors that you can utilize. So this is a great tool. I suggest you utilize this, especially if you're just starting out, and just kind of keep a binder of all this kind of playfulness and experimentation with the colors that you have on you, and the colors that you enjoy using, and any new colors that you want to introduce to your palette.